Their role isn't to educate society. Kevin O'Leary just ripped Mark Cuban's claim that going woke is good for business, warns that you risk alienating 50% of your customers. So these are two of the guys, probably the main guys on the great Shark Tank show that's out there duking it out. Here, let me go to the story here. So here we go. Mark Cuban believes embracing woke ideology is good for business. But Kevin O'Leary disagrees, stating when you get involved in partisan issues, you basically lose 50% of your constituency. Why you would do that when you're a consumer goods or service company, everybody is learning, makes absolutely no sense. O'Leary emphasizes that the role of a corporation is to serve its customers, employees, and shareholders, and not to educate society on social issues. He states their role is not to educate society on the social issue of the day. Companies like Anheuser-Busch, InBev, and Target have faced negative consequences for allegedly going woke. O'Leary points out when you lose 9, 10, 11, $12 billion of market cap, you know that you've offended somebody and that person is your customer. That's bad business, really bad business. Tom?
Well, first of all, Kevin O'Leary comes up out from under the rock after FTX that he's been sitting on.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah, it's a heavy rock.
and then it's like, hey, something to talk about that's not 3 letters. I think there's some truth to what Kevin O'Leary is saying. Kevin O'Leary is saying, hey, you look at, it's kind of what I just said. There are a number of people that like our products. We're not going to be for or against any one of them. Please enjoy. And I think Kevin O'Leary is absolutely correct. And I think he points out, if you're upsetting a customer, what are you doing? Now, that's different from if we just saw a thing about fur coats. You're making fur coats and the animal activists aren't going to be happy with you. Or you're tobacco and no one's happy about the addictive, that vape is so addictive and now you're getting teenagers involved. This isn't that. This is Kevin O'Leary saying, hey, if these are your customers, why would you upset any of your customers? Forget that this is about woke. That's the question O'Leary's asking. Why would you upset any of your customers? And I think he's dead right.
But Pat, here's my sorry, Adam. What is up with Mark Cuban? Is he that left, Pat, where he's like vaccine and everybody get this, and he's getting involved and he's all this woke. Like what is his deal? It's like what is up with this guy?
No. Mark Cuban, don't let him fool you. He's one of the sharpest cats out there. He knows exactly what he's doing, who he's supporting. He's the type of guy that he is a sequencing guy. Okay. Like he knows I'm going to support this guy because I'm going to get this guy and I'm going to defend this guy and I'm going to be against. He knows like the enemies he's chosen. You know who he's defending, whose side he's a part of. He's not a dummy. Mark Cuban knows what he's doing. So whether it's knowing the fact that if you don't go woke, what is the benefit of if he owns the Dallas Mavs? Can you go to the Dallas Mavs valuation? What is and a big chunk of his net worth is with the Mavs. He bought it, I think, for $240 million.
I'm guessing
he bought it for nothing.
2-3
I believe his non-sports
$3 billion.
His non-sports net worth, Pat, I think is 1.1 to be exact.
Yeah, 75% of his net.
So he's worth $5 billion.
Yeah.
His non-sport is 1.1.
And
well, I mean, his non-sport is probably a little bit more than that. But the team is a $3.3 billion company.
Check his net worth. It might not even be $5 billion.
It's 5.1.
Okay, that's where it is.
Mark Cuban net worth, I want to say it's 5.1 billion. Okay, so $5.1 billion net worth that Mark's got. So what happens if all of a sudden NBA brokers a deal with China? You know what happens to that $3.3 billion?
It's going up.
Did you see when the Denver Broncos were all of a sudden bought for whatever? And do you remember who made everybody in the NBA rich? Who's the most hated owner in the NBA that made everybody rich in the NBA? What was the guy's name? Donald Sterling.
Yeah, when he sold
buys the
Steve
LA
Ballmer.
Clippers for, what did he sell? $2.1 billion? What was LA Clippers
I thought
sold?
it was $2 billion and change to Steve Ballmer.
Who did what?
Exactly,
$2 billion.
$2 billion.
I thought it was a little over $2 billion. Okay, $2 billion.
There you go.
Okay, do me a favor. Type, how much did Donald Sterling buy the Clippers for? Because it was a San Diego Clippers when he bought it.
Yeah, it was
wow.
75
How much
bucks.
did Donald Sterling pay
85,
San Diego
95.
Clippers? Yeah, it's okay. $12.5 million.
Oh my
The
God.
guy buys the Clippers for $12.5 million, sells it for $2 billion. You know what X that is?
He had buildings
10X is
worth more money.
$120 million. 100X is 1.25. He sells it for nearly 180X of what he paid for it, right? When Donald Sterling did that, everybody went like this. hate the guy, but damn, I love the guy. He just made me a billionaire, dog.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next crazy event like this that can get the NBA to be insane valuations is if they go into China and if Adam Silver wants to be known as a commissioner like the great Robert Kraft that made all NFL owners billionaires, where NFL owners like, you can fly private jet for the rest of your life and your great-great-great-great-grandkids. We'll give you best health insurance for the rest of your life, your entire family. You can go anywhere. That's pretty much the deal he got, plus $25 million. I don't know what the deal was, $37 million or some salary. He knows if he pisses off the wrong people, Mark Cuban, that sequencing of getting that contract in China. Again, I'm speculating. I don't know this for a fact. This is purely opinions here. But the guy's not a dummy. He's choosing sides, and he knows which side he's not a part of. And for you to go and be against a Musk or a Rogan, really? What do you mean? Do you know who likes Musk? Do you know who likes Rogan? You know what kind of people like those two guys?
Your audience?
It's the people
going to the
that
games?
question authority. It's people that are anti-establishment. It's people that are ballsy. It's people that can stand up for something. It's people that are willing to say some stuff that is going to offend the doctors that you can't ever offend those people. You're offending the people that are already protected, and you're putting this. Yeah, that no one respects that. People respect what the Rogans and the Musks are doing. People respect those types of people. And I don't know. By the way, he's like I said, I would love to see Mark go into the presidential debate. You know why I'd love to see that?
What?
You know I'd love to see that? Because I'd love to see a true debate where he goes boom, 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 boom on 10 issues. Mm-hmm. Not a debate where it's boom, boom, and it's you move on. A certain tweet, you call somebody out, you move on.
Yeah, you get quiet, run off and hide.
And I will tell you, credit to Mark. Mark will have a debate with somebody on Twitter, and it'll be a 20-part debate. So he's not somebody that backs off and moves on. So I'd love to see the guy run. I think he actually has a shot at becoming a president. I think he has a shot at being a president as a Democratic Party.
Of course.
He won't run as a Republican. He would run as a Democrat.
Speaking of selling your NBA team, what Jordan just sold the Charlotte Hornets for $3 billion, something like that. He bought it for $275 million.
Another one right there.
10 years ago. And by the way, what you're saying with China and the NBA, it sounds far-fetched. It's not, why would the NBA ever do something like that?
What do you mean? Yeah.
We have a recent case example with the PGA and LIV, right? 2 years ago, and never in a million years did we think that Saudi, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, would own part of the PGA.
Yeah.
And we've seen this kind of play out, and they've partnered up and they've done everything like that. But yeah, PGA Tour agrees to merge with Saudi-backed rival LIV Golf, and I think it was Greg Norman who basically led the charge from Saudi.
That's correct. The Saudis recruited Greg to be their president.
So very interesting. It's just when you think, why would the NBA ever do it? It's all right, well, we've got something here. A little fun fact about the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. You know that we say that Russia is not a country; it's just a gas station masquerading as a country. Even more so in Saudi. But the Prince MBS, Mohammed bin Salman, I think he developed a plan a handful of years ago where basically said we're too reliant on oil. And the way that we need to diversify our country's resources is to start buying sports teams and sports leagues and franchises. And they bought, soccer teams, massive. If you look at
Miami,
Saudi Arabia,
you know the story, Miami Messi, what did they try to do?
Exactly. They think to buy him for $1 billion a year, whatever, something crazy. Saudi Arabia has bought into soccer and golf. Will the NBA and NFL be next? They've had a mandate in Saudi Arabia. Don't just be 100% reliant on what Saudi Aramco. I think that's the third largest company by market cap in the world. You think you have Apple at number one, $3 trillion, I want to say. What's number two? Help me out here, Tom.
This is like
number two.
Forbes 400 of
yeah, exactly. Whatever. But Saudi Aramco is number three. I know they're worth $2 trillion or then some. It might be Microsoft, whatever. Speaking of market cap.
Yeah.
But they're basically saying our entire country, our entire economy is basically relying on Saudi Aramco, government-owned oil company, and the way that they want to diversify their investment strategy is buy sports teams galore. That's how they end up buying LIV.
It's not going to be close to the kind of money they have, but I get the fact that they're diversifying and imposing their influence in different sports. And yesterday I was looking at the comparison about China and India. Brandon, Kelly, and I were sitting there talking about China and India, and how China started taking foreign direct investments in 1990, and it skyrocketed them into where they are today. India didn't start taking foreign investments until 2005. And so India is behind China around 10 years. Like just 10 years ago, only 70% of Indians had full-on electricity. China 100% had electricity. Today, I think India is at 98% or something like that. They're at a higher number than they were before. Of course, India's got a younger population than China by 12 years. I think India's like 26, China's 38.
But here they come.
But the one, yeah, they're definitely going to come, and they're investing into education. When it comes down to railways, they have more because I think China is 3 times the size of India, but China only has twice the amount of railways as India does. And ports-wise, China's got way more than India. Anyways, but the point was them allowing outside people to invest into their country, okay? China had the 51% rule. Like if you're going to do anything in India, in China, you've got to control 51% of it, 49, all that stuff. They kind of have that process that they did. And America's typically been protected. So there should be a little bit of threat when other people want to invest too much into your country because they're having influence over it as well. So I don't know how people are going to feel about Saudi making those types of investments aggressively. You can't really prevent it. It's not like it's a 51% number, but that is something you ought to think about long term. Is it going to be a good thing or a bad thing? So if 20 years from now, 50% of NBA teams are owned by Saudi owners, is that a good thing? I don't know about that. So these are things that one has to consider. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, you know what's interesting is you look through history. Pat's making a great point. In the 1990s, commercial real estate and residential real estate in California and Hawaii were being inundated by whose money?
This
90s.
is what year?
90s, late 80s through the 90s.
Japanese?
Correct. And Japanese were buying...
Look at me for 500.
Japanese were buying very large things in America like Manhattan soil. Like they... I believe... Japanese, I may be wrong, but I thought a Japanese company still owns Rockefeller Center and all the stuff around it. And actually it's leased back to GE and NBC and all that became. But everybody back then was like, oh my gosh, they're going to dominate world semiconductor. They're already, look what they're doing with Lexus and Acura and Nissan and Infiniti. Here they come. They're going to destroy our auto industry. They're going to do this. And they're an ally. They were part of G7. And everybody was freaked out by it. But there's cycles that happen with the wealth of nations and their currency being trading above other people. And they overcooked it, which led to what they call the lost decade, where their economy crashed. And if you read about Japan, you can read about the lost decade. So there's cycles that go right now, and right now we are in a Saudi cycle. And the Saudi cycle is investing and buying a lot of things with a lot of headlines, very similar to Japan in the late 80s and 90s.
I just think we have to be a little bit not sports organizations, but leagues. If there is already something in place where you can't, like a country, can you type something, Rob, to see what is the rules about international investors buying sports teams in America? Is there a rule against that, like what they can and can't do? Because
Americans have been buying soccer. Stan Kroenke owns Manchester United, doesn't he? The owner of the LA Rams.
Is it look,
the Nuggets.
As much money as we have in America, you don't have Saudi type of money. There's not guys that have that kind of money. Now, don't get me wrong. There's some people say, well, the richest guy is this guy or that guy or this guy. We have money, but if Saudi's using oil money to pick up $5 billion sports teams, what the hell is that to them? Nothing. That's chump change.
Infinite oil below your feet is a crazy ATM.
Yeah, I can take $100 billion and buy 20. I can buy $100 billion and buy 33 $3 billion teams. I can literally buy 33 $3 billion teams. That's pretty much the NBA.
That's the whole NBA.
Yeah, because some of the teams are worth $1.2 billion. Some of them are worth $4.5 billion. I can buy the entire NBA for $100 billion.
I read a joke, Pat, about
Did
this.
you hear that? Like it's 30 teams.
That's crazy.
If each team is worth $3 billion on average, I can buy the entire NBA team, every one of them, for $100 billion. Elon Musk could buy every single NBA team.
Oh my God, that's crazy to think about.
Not even a question.
Yeah. That'd be nuts.
I heard a joke made about the Saudis. It says, it's not about dollars, it's about days. I said, what do you mean? It says, well, I want to buy I want to buy the Dallas Cowboys. What is that? $6 billion. Okay, that's how many days do we pump? It's basically they're talking about how many days do you pump the oil out of the ground.
That makes sense.
So I can buy the every 21 days I could buy the Dallas Cowboys.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Yep.
So would you say, Pat, that Saudi has the most out of every? They're just the richest.
I don't know. I mean, some say Saudi, some say Putin's the richest guy in the world. Some say certain people in China that low key no one like specifically Xi, not everybody, because people are leaving China. Billionaires and millionaires are leaving China hardcore right now. So what is that? NFL rules prohibit foreign investments and franchises, but rules were made to be disregarded when sufficiently profitable to do so. Tuesday, stunning news that the PGA... Okay, so interesting. So in the NFL, so yes, the Public Investment Fund, the formal name of the Sovereign Wealth Fund of Saudi Arabia, can get into the NFL if it wants, and if it has to set up a competing league to light the fuse, so be it. It worked in golf. Why wouldn't it work in football? Man, if these guys create a competing team and they go to guys like Joe Burrow and Josh Allen and say, we'll pay you $100 million a year to come be a golfer. We'll give you a 10-year billion-dollar contract.
They're all gone.
And next thing you know, they recruit the 50 best players in the NFL that go over there.
It's over.
It's
a wrap.
Do you know what I would do?
What's that?
I'm going to say something here. Watch this. So I'm now Prince Thomas of Saudi Arabia.
Hi, Prince.
And I create an organization over here, and I start doing NIL of everybody that's going to be the top draft picks, Pat. And I start stealing your draft picks because what I do, I go into college and I can outbid you on NIL, which is exactly what they did with Phil Mickelson and with Bryson DeChambeau and some top-line golfers that they paid those incredible join fees. Remember those? Phil Mickelson was rumored to have gotten $500 million to join LIV. So what if they go over here very legally and create a fund and go after NIL of NBA players and NFL players at the collegiate level?
Yeah. And NIL, for those that don't remember, it's name, image, and likeness, right?
The new legal way to get sponsorship dollars to athletes. What if they did
the high school athletes, the college athletes, which has been forbidden for forever.
But Tom, legally, that's saying that they can do that, right?
Prince Thomas, I could do that tomorrow morning if I had the money and completely disrupt. I could have the top draft picks if I had a feeder system into a pro league.
This is giving me very Coming to America vibes. Like, he's a prince. I mean, when I say he's got his own money, baby, he got his own money.
Well, I'm just outlining how easy it would be to do. Could you see that happening, Pat?
I can.
They just did it in golf.
They just did it. And everybody was hating. I can't believe you're doing this. I can't believe you're doing that. Well, LIV and PGA have decided to team up together. What happened over
Phil
here?
Mickelson, you betrayed us. For $500 million, I betrayed you.
By the way, you know Greg Norman was a guy that was hated? You know Greg Norman had no idea this was happening. This happened behind his back. He had no clue when this was announced. He says, I have no clue. I was not a part of this. No one told me this was happening. I just heard the news myself.
Yeah, the top CEOs in their board, there was 5 people that got together. They were trying to settle the suits, and they said, well, one way to settle is maybe we just pump the money in the PGA and we own it. Jay Monahan's like, that'd be really hypocritical of me. You could be president, Jay, and we'll pay you $20 million. But I think it could be we could figure it out.
That's hilarious.
And what's $20 million to these guys? It's like minimum wage, $15 an hour for them.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.